Hi guys, I'm Carly from Point Blank in London. Welcome to another plugin of the week. We are an electronic music school with courses here in London, LA, Ibiza and online. We also offer BA degrees certified by Middlesex University. You can study those here in London or online. Just head to our website, pointblankmusicschool.com, where you can find out more about our courses, which include DJing, music production, sound engineering and radio. This is JC, our creative director here. And today he's going to be chatting through an audio processing plugin called Soothe from Oeksound. And just a reminder that we are streaming live and we love your questions. So if you do have any, please feel free to post them in the comment section and JC will get to them a little later on. Bonjour.
Bonjour.
How are you?
I'm very good.
Good, thank you.
Good, excellent. So, so this week we're looking at a plugin that I think was released maybe October, November 2016. I wasn't aware of it until Oeksound, the people at Oeksound contacted us if we wanted to try it out, and was really impressed. So a lot of good reviews from really professional people using it, and I was just intrigued by how it works because it's quite unique in the way it works.
So is it designed to kind of like tackle those mid and high range frequencies?
Yes, yes. So it's somewhere it is a little bit, I mean, we can have a listen, but it's one of those plugins that you don't go, wow, the difference.
Subtle.
It's really, really subtle. It's a mixing tool, a mastering tool, really efficient with audio recorded by a mic especially. Electronic music, you've got a bit more control. I'm not saying there are no resonance, depending, it can be a sample, whatever. But usually when you record an instrument, a drum, a guitar, a vocal, mics are not super accurate. They create a bit of resonance and stuff like that, and also room resonance, depending on where you record. And often what happens is that there are times where with vocal, or I've seen it with guitar and cymbals, but really guitar and vocal often, where there are some resonance at certain frequencies in that range, and they can be a bit harsh and aggressive. And what happens is those resonances are becoming more prominent when the volume is coming up. So they're not consistent. So sometimes a fixed EQ, just notching, let's say, 2K, for example. Okay, 2K can be quite aggressive if it's not, depending on the context. But let's say you've got a resonance at 2K, and sometimes this resonance you need to get rid of it consistently. A fixed EQ is fine. You get rid of that, and it helps. But there are times where, at a low level, this resonance is not so much of a problem, and actually you don't really want to take it off because you may lose something. But it's only when it's really poking out that it starts being a problem. Then, suddenly, you need to automate your EQ. I've seen many times one on vocal where I would automate effectively EQ on different syllables or different words.
Yeah.
Very time consuming, as you can imagine, like super time consuming until you get it right for each word, So this plugin is, some people say, you can do that with a multiband compressor, a dynamic EQ. And yes, you can, but they work a certain way. Let's start demonstrating what it does the best way. So what I've done now, I've got this vocal, it's in bypass mode at the moment. And I'm going to turn on the speaker a little bit so it doesn't bleed too much in our mics. So, you see as well it goes in the red, and I've done that on purpose. I've left the vocal go in the red a little bit because I just wanted to illustrate what it does. So normally I wouldn't have that, guys. So I've got two tracks here, I believe. Let me check at the mixer very quickly. I've got few vocals basically going to bus 11. Yeah, it's those three tracks together. It's one of those tracks where you've got three lead vocal. They've been triple track to get that kind of sound, and you can see one is louder in the middle, and two of them are slightly pan, kind of 11.5, kind of vibe, past 5.11. So, and these vocals, if you can listen to them, they have a little bit of, in places, it has a bit of a resonance around maybe 1-2K, a little bit of resonance. So I've put Soothe on it, and I'm going to put it on now, and I've bypassed all the bands, and I'll talk to you about the EQ section of that. But the first thing I want to do is focus on those 3 parameters that are really essentially the most important part of it as far as I'm concerned. So I'm going to turn all of them down for now, and I'm going to start with the depth. So the depth is kind of a threshold, I guess, or a drive, depending on what kind of device you use. They all use different terms. But effectively, it's the more you bring it in, the more it starts reducing. So what does Soothe does, the manufacturers describe it as a dynamic resonance suppressor. Okay, that's kind of what it is. So it's somewhere between an EQ, it can be a dynamic EQ, it can be a multiband, except that it works across the entire range. And although it focuses on the mid and high, it works across the entire range, and it detects those resonance automatically. So at first, you don't really need to do anything, but just push the threshold. So I'm going to push it in, and let's see, playing the vocal. You see? And based on the input level, it shows me where I have resonance. So here I've got some here, which is somewhere between 5 and 10K. They're your S's. Yeah. And then you've got somewhere around here, like I was saying, somewhere between 1 and 2K. Okay? So here you start going in and you dial in, and the more you put on, until you get rid of it. And obviously now we don't have anything left. But straight away you see how it's smoothing and rebalancing the EQ, the frequency balance of the... So now we need to look at those 2, because those 3 parameters really work, they're really intertwined the way they work. That is the sharpness. It's effectively a cue of the bandwidth of those notches. At the moment we're super broad. You see the reductions? They're really, really broad. But now I'm going to start narrowing it. You see what it's starting to do? Getting narrower and narrower. The cuts are deeper, they're more narrow, but there are also more of them. So what it means by increasing the sharpness, or the cue, whatever you want to call it, it becomes more surgical and starting to get rid of really notching, the equivalent of putting a notch EQ but on lots of different bands. Typically when you've got a problem in a frequency range, let's say if you had one at 1K, it's not unusual to have one an octave above 2K or an octave lower, 500, because they're octaves, so they have a relation, those frequencies, if you like, like in music. So you see here, I'm getting more notching going down, and the more I do it, here you see, it's like, now it's like EQing out a lot of notch with really, really narrow cue, but loads of them are multiple. So the more you push it up, there's hardly any crossover between any of those reductions, so you may not want to push it. You've got to be careful of what you're going to be doing. But it's identify all those big notches, so it's really... So you see straight away, let's compare. On the eyes, for example, you really hear it. Now, you see how the eyes has been a little bit more controlled, not as aggressive in a way. You also notice that without it, I was clipping, and now I'm not clipping anymore. You see, I'm minus 1.2, whereas before I was clipping by 0.3. So those peak reduction were peaking as well. So it can help you by reducing some of those nasty harmonic peaks, resonance, to increase the level a little bit. So that is the concept between those 2 ones, the sharpness and there. And here I'm going to leave it somewhere there. I find it more musical that way. And it seems to be reacting as I want. When the S's are becoming pronounced, I'm getting the reduction.
Baby, I'm yours to find. I close my eyes and read.
It reacts quite well. Now, the selectivity is kind of a fine-tune. One thing which is cool when you hover over your mouse, it gives you a menu, a help menu. So the more that is almost a second threshold. Once you've defined here, you see we're getting all our peaks are being reduced. But with that, you're becoming, it's called selectivity, but what it is, it's become more selective about which peaks resonance it's starting to tame. Basically, the louder peaks are tamed still, but maybe the lowest peak are not tame anymore. So it's kind of a fine-tuned threshold. And the way you set it up is very much a combination, like I was saying, of those three parameters, very essential. So if you keep it fairly broad on both for sharpness and selectivity, it kind of works a little bit, I suppose, like a dynamic EQ, except that it works across the range, whereas a dynamic EQ, depending on its design, it's going to work on one frequency dynamically, but one alone, one band. Whereas here, obviously, it's across the range. A multi-band, the difference as well is a multi-band compressor, you may say, okay, reduce, you're going to have a threshold, you're going to have an attack and a release, and often you will say reduce the frequency range between, let's say, 1K and 2K. But between the 1K and 2K, the reduction is going to be the same. Whereas here, as you can see, because it's all automatic, it's based on automatic detection, the reduction I get at 1K compared to 2K is not the same. It's really quite intelligent at picking up, so more precise, and for the kind of very surgical work, really work quite a treat.
Okay, cool.
Now, if you wanted to DS, you tend to push the selectivity maybe a little bit, maybe the sharpness as well, and start only tackling. It's called also quite an advanced de-esser. De-esser, it's to compress just the S's in this frequency range.
Right, okay.
You know. But then again, the fact that it does all of that. So those are the main parameters here to be aware of. Then you've got a stereo link, which is at 100%. It takes the signal from the left, and both signals are being reduced in the same way, whereas at 0, and it's for 2 mono signal, and I'll show you that on another example quickly afterwards. Oversampling, it's the same concept, processing at a higher sample rate by 2 or by 4, takes more CPU, and resolution, you've got normal, high, ultra, same, better rendering. It's going to give you a different result, it's going to take more CPU, try what's working for you. I have found that on normal, most of the time on what I've worked so far with vocal and individual track, it's done the trick really well for me.
Okay.
So that's the important part of it, and you see it already works. Now there's an EQ. So I think it's easy to be confused what the EQ does, because it's not an EQ in the sense that, once you've done that, you can re-EQ afterwards. Not at all. The EQ is based on a concept of almost as a reverse EQ or a sidechain EQ. Typically, a sidechain EQ, when would you use it? For example, if you put an EQ within the sidechain of the compressor and you boost around 5K, the compressor only going to compress frequencies around 5K.
Okay.
Essentially, that's how a de-esser works. Okay? So you're boosting a frequency for the compressor to detect those first and prioritize the compression of those frequencies. And that works in the same way.
Okay.
Although it doesn't cancel out completely, but it helps you to prioritize and focus where those reductions that we've set up here are going to happen. So let me illustrate. I'm going to reset that.
Close my eyes to say
Okay, I'm quite happy with those settings for now. So we've got a low pass. So if I do there, and you can bypass the frequency range, they're all bypassed at the moment. I've left it on purpose for that, because I wanted to demonstrate how it was working across the range. So here I've got a high pass. It's a 1, 2, 3, 5-point EQ, 3 parametric, and a high pass and low pass. So here we've got the high pass. I can move the high pass, so if I start moving it here, let's see what happens.
close my
You see the reduction doesn't happen below this point.
Yeah, I see.
You see?
Yeah.
Not anymore.
to be
So in that sense, you're defining with the EQ what is being processed. So I'm going to bring it down because I really liked still what it was doing somewhere around here.
close my eyes to say goodbye to being lonely. Baby,
I'm going to leave it here because it compressed a little bit here and I like that. Now we've got this band here. So you see it's boosted massively, and I'm going to bring it on. I'm boosting it massively. Sensitivity is here. And you see it's not called gain, it's called sensitivity. because the more you boost it, the compressor is going to start to react a little bit more around this area that with it than without. Let's have a look.
Close my
You see now?
eyes
How it's
to
dipping
say
more. Now let me...
goodbye to being lonely. Close my eyes.
Okay, and here,
Close my eyes.
you see? Especially at that frequency, at the point where I got that deep. And that's kind of what I needed, what I wanted. So the way I would recommend to use it is start with those, like I've done, and then see where you need to shape it a bit more.
Okay.
And here, I've put that one in as well and bringing it on. It's because I wanted the S's to be picked up a little bit more.
Close my eyes to say goodbye.
Yeah, it's working really well now. I'm also going to put that
Baby, I'm
on.
yours.
So now it's focusing on this area where the compression happens. Okay? You've got a trim and you've got a 100% wet, so you can listen. You could, for example, do a lot more and back up and do a mixture of dry and unprocessed and processed. A very useful feature is this delta mode. That just lets you listen only to what is being removed.
Okay. Oh, wow. Okay. Oh, wow.
And it's kind of quite reassuring me because that's those frequencies that I really needed to. This kind of
really
slightly
useful.
aggressiveness.
Close my
Yeah?
Pedro has asked, is it just for vocals? It's not just for vocals,
No,
is it?
let's look into it.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of other use, like basically anything that has some resonance problem issues resonating around from low mid even, because I mean here I can take it down to 20, so I could, although it says it's designed for that, you still can use it. I've used it on a bass last time just to try it out, you know, on at around 500, what you would call low mid, and it worked a treat. Let me show you, for now in the context. I think it's important to put in the context. So you see here, we're not picking anymore. We've reduced that. You see how much more it's sitting the track now? Let me bypass it. For me, the eyes was really always a bit of a problem. Really works well now. So those are all the features. Roughly, we've gone through all the features, I think. And don't hesitate, please, guys. We're live on Facebook and YouTube today, I believe. So if you have any questions, please.
We love your questions.
We love your question. It's part of the process of being live. So please, send us some question if you have any. So yeah, that's for vocal, but maybe it's worth having a look at what else it can be used for.
Yes, let's do that.
I mean, typically acoustic guitar, I would say. I didn't have any material with me today with acoustic guitar, but it can work on cymbals. You know, like cymbals that rings a lot. You can really tame that. One of the idea behind that is that by controlling a little bit more your mid-high mid, the top end becomes clearer, kind of more open, but clearer as well, a bit less harsh as well. So that's the concept of it. So I'm going to close that track for now. I'm not going to save. And I've got another track here. So that's another example you guys have heard. It's from this New York band. And I wanted to try it on cymbals, although this track maybe didn't have the huge ringing issue that cymbals can have. I thought I still should show you.
Exemption has asked, is it worth getting this if you've already got a DSer?
It's different. As you've seen, a DSer, again, a DSer is like a dynamic EQ, in my opinion, where you target one range, and depending in which mode you use it, it's going to bring down everything at that frequency by a certain amount. Here, it does it in very different places. So, worth trying. I think they do a 14 days demo, well worth trying. I mean, I wouldn't, also the fact that it has this whole automatic detection behind it going on, quite important, that it does it really, really well. And I love the sound, the transparency as well. I find it's really transparent. You really need to start hammering it, overdo it, to start hearing it.
Okay.
So I think that's really cool as well. Yeah, So here I've put it on the drums. So I think, yeah, I've put it on the drum bus. Yeah, you hear. So here I wanted to tame a little bit those cymbals around that kind of frequencies. And I'm going to push it a little bit more maybe. I'm keeping the bandwidth not too wide because I don't want everything else to be affected. And now let's see that. Yeah. So you see here on the cymbal at the first hit.
Yeah.
And the rest of it isn't too affected on the drums. I really like what it does. And without, and it's a little bit in a bit too much of that, if you like. Totally tamed down, totally much more pleasant. Again, that means you can push the level a little bit more. It doesn't take your head off, you know. Really, really cool. You know, for that kind of particular stuff. So on the cymbal, as you can see here, it works really well. Now, I want to try it on another thing. There was an electric guitar here.
Oh yeah, we were listening to that before.
Yeah, we did, didn't we, before? So it's that one, I think. Yeah. And I'm going to bypass it first, and let's have a listen. I'm going to play in the context. So it's that guitar. You see on those, on those repetition? And not all of them. The second time round, it's okay. The first time round, that's when they were poking out. And to me, in the mix, they were not sitting in. And a normal compressor wasn't doing the trick. This one here.
I have another question. Use Soothe before or after compressor?
This one, because it's about rebalancing, I mean, it is a compressor as
Yeah.
well, isn't it? So, for me, I would start with a normal EQ to start with. If I have like major correction to do, like a big one which is static,
Yeah.
you know, get rid of 30 hertz or rumble or whatever, or hiss, or, you know, or a fixed resonance. Then, if I still have some issues, I mean, first I would try your compressor, a normal compressor, because that's always what I use. But if I have resonance problem, I would use that before hitting the compressor, personally. But again, depends on the sound. I mean, sometimes I may compress it and find that it's sitting everything, except that there's still something remaining. For example, on that guitar, there was already EQ going on, and I ended up putting it after everything at the end, because despite everything that had been done, there was still that very moment in the riff where it wasn't resolved. And normally, I would probably EQ it or automate it. But let's see what it does here. It's those three notes that really bothering me. They're kind of jumping, you know what I mean? They're kind of jumping, so I would want to put that guitar louder, but every time those three notes comes on, it's jumping out of the mix, so I can't, so I'm keeping it lower in a way. Or I'm going to start automating, spend a lot of time.
Right, okay.
So let's put it on and see if it can help us. See? Let's have a listen again. You see how it stays in the mix? All of a sudden it's there. What it means is that if I wanted now, I could probably push it a bit. But I think it should be louder, guitar. I think there's a response somewhere. Yeah. And actually, I'm going to put I'm going to do that one here. I want this one to be a bit more as well. Yeah. Now it's sitting much nicer, and I've got it much louder in the mix, but it's sitting there. So it's really, really interesting. I mean, for me, it's quite intriguing the way it works. You can even try it on a full mix. as a mastering. It's so transparent in the sound.
Yeah.
And I'd be tempted actually, as we speak, to try it quickly if we've got 5 minutes.
No problem.
Do we have 5 minutes?
Yes,
We do have 5 minutes.
we do.
Oh, that's a track, the new track on the label, I believe.
Oh, Revelo.
Yes,
Hold
absolutely.
on.
But I haven't tried it literally. Okay, let's put Soothe on it, and let's see if it picks any. I mean, have you noticed by default it always comes with that shape by default, so it shows that it's really targeted for that around 4K,
Yeah.
that harshness, SEs, high mid, top end. But I'm gonna cancel that as well, just because right now I'm putting it across a mix, and sometimes it can be also, if you're learning EQ and stuff, it could be a good way to start seeing your mix and kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, do I have some problems anywhere?
Yeah.
And sometimes if there's a resonance in place, some of them are pleasant. You wanted it there.
Yeah.
Obviously a kick drum, you know, fundamental notes. But sometimes they are just harmonics that you may not want. Let's see.
Tom's asked, is this useful for controlling low end?
It's really designed for mid and high mid, I think.
Yeah.
But look, I mean here, if I push it, you see the hats?
Yeah.
And if I push it, and you hear distortion because everything is. So here, let's put that. I'm not gonna. Actually, even on the low end, look, I mean, what it does here, it's subtle. Without. I think it keeps the low end a little bit in a nice way.
Jason's asked, does this create artifacts in a quieter mix with a reverb tail, say a drum room mic?
Not if you do it too much. If you start hearing artifacts, you're probably doing it too much. I think you've got to be careful. It's tempting to say suddenly, oh, I can get rid of all the nasty resonance, and you start putting that across all the track, and then you're not left with a bit unnatural, you know, too flat. So you've got to be careful. I think you personally, the way because at first I was so impressed with it and how transparent it was. Well, there's scope to use it, you know, across a wide range of audio, and it's kind of like. Then I started to think about the concept and how to use it, and I was like, well, I don't automate EQ on every single track, only when there's a big issue that needs to be dealt.
Yeah.
And I think you should use it when there's a big issue, just not for the sake of thinking, oh, I'm keeping all my peaks under control,
Okay.
because then you end up with something maybe too flat. So.
And Futorian has asked, does it make sense to use that plugin to control the masking between kick drum and sub bass sound masking?
Well, it could and couldn't. I mean, at the end of the day, the masking, when you talk about masking, that means two things appear exactly in the same frequency range. So one is masking the other. So because it works with frequency, if you've got two things in the same frequency, you can't do it. You've got to deal with it before it gets together, if you like. So I don't see it for that, no. I think it's more the mid and high mid again.
Yeah.
Where, again, you know, let's show again, it's the fact that it can pick up, dynamically control different peaks in different places as they happen. I think the live aspect of it, real-time aspect of it is really, really important. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you for all your questions, guys. Is that about it?
That's about it, yeah. I think we've done an overview of everything, but if there's anything that we haven't tackled or answered, please feel free to put some questions.
Yeah,
YouTube,
I think it's
Facebook.
€150. You can head to the Oeksound website, perhaps download a demo version. And if you would like to learn more about mixing, mastering, or sound engineering, head to our website, pointblankmusicschool.com, where you can find out more about our courses. And we'll see you next week, hopefully, with another plugin of the week. Bye.